099.
You owe it to yourself and your loved ones.
Now that spring is here, so is the tornado season. Last year, several areas around here were ravaged as twisters plowed through during the month of June. For most families, the rebuilding is nearly complete, but the memory of last summer is still vividly clear. In our cover story tonight, how one family started over after the tornado. We'll explain what they did differently to make sure they'll be safe if it ever happens again. This was Bright, Indiana last June after a tornado plowed through, destroying home after home. David Taylor's house was in the path of that tornado. This was his house before. Take a look at what was left behind.
This is the same view of the house before and after. This tree is the tree you see here. Before any cleanup was done, that's the kitchen range, which is still sitting on the floor. As you can see, the walls are gone.
4 months later, the Taylors moved into their new home. They built this one with tornadoes in mind.
It's on one story this time.
Why is that?
Because we decided that if, in case of an emergency, it's much easier to get to the basement from the first floor than it is from the second floor. And also, one of our priorities in this house was to build a tornado shelter in the basement. And it's one of those things that we hope we never have to use again, but it gives you a little bit of peace of mind knowing that it's there.
David hopes about 20 people could take shelter in here and says it was worth the extra cost to build.
For the peace of mind it provided, it was well worth the extra. It's all reinforced concrete. There's steel bars running through the walls, through the top.
The beams on Taylor's new house are thicker too, more structurally sound, but he doesn't believe there's any way to build a house that's tornado-proof. With this new addition, though, he's sure he's done everything he can to make sure his family is protected.
After seeing what was left of the old house and what areas were damaged the most, we knew that, by having an area like this, that we should be safe.
The tornado that hit Bright, Indiana, as well as other areas around here, struck during the month of June.
Now, as bad as the damage was in Ohio, we didn't see the worst of the tornado's destruction.
That distinction goes to Indiana. Dearborn County suffered the worst damage in southeastern Indiana. You're seeing what was left of a neighborhood in the Bright Logan area of Dearborn County. People say an early warning the storm was coming saved their lives, and as residents came to clean up and collect what they could, they talked about how thankful they are no one in their community was killed.
That's a thing that you don't really think about until something like this hits you. That everybody's safe, and we never lost no neighbors.
Indiana police say there were 20 injuries in southeast Indiana, but it could have been worse.
Now, this home video camera caught the destructive power of a tornado. To give you some idea of the winds Bob Allen was just telling us about, you'll watch a home and barn literally explode in Bedford, Indiana. There they go. Look at all that debris in the air right now. You can see why you don't have much time to react when a funnel cloud is heading your way, certainly, and it turned that farmhouse into just a bunch of boards in a matter of 1 or 2 seconds. No one was hurt here in Bedford, Indiana.
A lot of business owners are trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces today. You're looking at what was Pleasant Run Plaza Shopping Center in Springfield Township. Now, it's just a pile of debris, bricks, cinder blocks, wood, and metal. The roof and walls are gone from Helton's Quality Meats. Store owner Dennis Helton says he hopes his insurance will help him get back in business. His neighbors are hoping the same thing.
In Westchester, plywood was being pulled up and nailed into place to replace the roofs on the Fountains apartments. With 5 apartment buildings damaged there, more than 100 tenants have moved into other apartment complexes owned by the company, a motel, or moved in with friends. The apartment complex owners say it may be 2 or 3 months before the damaged buildings are back in shape.
We went to Harrison today because we knew there was still plenty of cleaning up to be done. We were right. But when you walk past the houses damaged by the storm, you see more than simply a lot of work to be done. What you see are people helping each other clean up, volunteering any way they can. Tonight in our cover story, we'll take you back to Harrison so you can see how friends and neighbors are lending each other a helping hand.
How about some chainsaws?
Yeah, we can get a guy down here with...
From construction workers to Boy Scouts, everyone in Harrison was pitching in today, doing what they could to help their neighbors and friends.
Can you imagine 7 people in that little corridor there?
Earlier in the broadcast, as you see it, you can't help but be amazed. Today, her family and friends were salvaging what they could, throwing out what they couldn't. But Marlene's daughter, Nija, says relatives and friends aren't the only ones helping. Even strangers have offered everything from food to a place for her mother to stay.
It's funny to see there's that many people in the world still that, you know, when you need them, they're there.
Jim Crabtree must feel the same way. He got help from people like Eric Richards, who lives up the street. They don't even know each other that well, but Eric says that
it's helping everybody. That's what we needed, and this town has always pulled together as a community, and it really shows now.
It's that kind of community spirit that filled this Red Cross Center in Bright, Indiana, too. All of these people came here to do anything they could to help.
We've been so blessed because ladies have been coming from all around the community and outside of our community, and men and women alike, just offering any help that we can take.
This is a very tightly knit community. Last night, as a shelter, we only had 8 permanent residents that stayed the night here. All the rest of the people in the area stayed with friends.
It won't be long before everything is cleaned up around here, but it will be a long time before these people forget about the tornado, and even longer before they forget how much their friends cared.
I know they would do it for me. This is the type of community we live in. And
now, if you can't volunteer your time but would like to help those hit by the weekend storms, the Red Cross is giving you that opportunity. You can send donations to the Disaster Relief Fund, Cincinnati Red Cross, 720 Sycamore Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202. If you have any questions about donations, you can call the Red Cross at 579-3000. Now, coming up at 5:30, we'll continue our tornado coverage. We'll follow a family coping with frustration, the frustration of getting their lives back in order. And for those of you who need insurance help or repair work done on your home, we'll tell you what to look out for.
Up next, we're going to take a look at the day's other headlines, including Mikhail Gorbachev meeting up with an old friend.
And bankers tell Donald Trump to tighten his belt. Stay with us. But at least the weather has allowed people hit by the tornado to get back to their communities and pick up what they can.
No rain, but it is chilly outside, and Bob Allen is outside right now in Harrison to give us the weather forecast. Bob?
Thanks, Randy and Denise. It's about 57 degrees right now. We expected at least to make it up to the 60-degree or into the 60-degree mark because we had hoped that the sun would return. But it's almost apropos that it continues to be a gloomy day, especially in places in Harrison and Bright, Indiana, and portions of western and northwestern Cincinnati. But for the rest of the day today, let's just continue to remember that it will clear up. It will get cold. It will be a little frosty overnight tonight. Matter of fact, we could break a record tomorrow night when we stay into the 40s. First of all, from the satellite picture around the nation, you can see that the wet weather, the stormy weather, continues to move to the east and northeast and southeast, where there continues to be some storms along the Gulf Coast area, East Coast area, and up to the northeast. We have another storm semi-brewing right now in the midsection of the nation. We shouldn't have to worry about that until probably Thursday, maybe even into Friday, which doesn't seem to be good news, does it? Our forecast for this evening, remember, it is going to be frosty tonight. The skies will stay cloudy throughout most of the evening hours and nighttime hours, and late tonight it will clear, letting the air from the northwest really put on quite a chill. We'll be 42, 43 degrees for tonight's temperature. Tomorrow the sun will be with us, but northwest winds will stay in there for the first half of the day, then shift around to the south, letting us warm up into the low 70s. Then tomorrow night, still another cool night. Well, not as bad as tonight, but our temperature tomorrow night will be into the 50s. Coming up next half hour, I want to explain to you not just where the tornado went, because we all know that it's documented, but exactly how the tornadoes from Saturday night acted a few times in less than an hour period, and a miraculous story that humbles me from here in Harrison, in somebody's backyard who we won't meet. Back to you, Carol. Randy?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. On Moneyline tonight, we've got some news for music lovers and potential home buyers. First, ahead, and here are the stories that we're working on for you right now. Bob Allen and the National Weather Service inspects some of the areas most seriously damaged by this weekend's tri-state twisters. We'll tell you about that, and that lives were spared in Ohio and Kentucky, but not in Indiana. Stephen Hill spent the day in the Hoosier State and will share some of the sorrow they're feeling there.
A day in the life of a tornado victim. I'm Joe Webb. I'll have that story coming up.
Those stories and a local guy who has an arm of gold. Denny Jansen explains coming up.
This is Channel 9 News with Carol Williams, Randy Little, Bob Allen's weather, and Dennis Jansen's sports.
What you are looking at is a path of destruction from a violent, rotating column of air. At least that's one definition of a tornado. and its destructive damage you will see and hear for yourself over the next 60 minutes. Good evening, everyone. Saturday night for many was a night for saving your life. Today, it's a night for saving what's left of it. Carol Williams and Bob Allen are in one of the many tri-state areas socked by tornadoes and violent storms. Storms that started in Texas, picked up steam, and then turned into this by the time it got to Indiana. Take a look at this, because this is Bedford, Indiana, and you can see the power of a tornado as it turns a home into rubble in 1 second. Now, many remember the thunderous lightning that also went on with tornadoes and the storms moving through. This is an example of what the thunderous lightning was like over the Louisville area, cloud to cloud, and then also cloud to ground lightning displays. The helplessness felt by many victims turned to despair when day came. The scope of damage was better known. But when everybody began pitching in, the despair turned to hope. They realized that it's going to be hard, but they're alive, and they can pull it all together. But it's going to take some help from state officials and also help from neighbors as well.